Hey guys, welcome back to DNA Customs, where we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to do it anyways. So the last video, we finished installing the cowl drain on the 68 Charger, got that all welded in place, and some of you pointed out that I forgot to prime this on the underside before I welded it in. And you're absolutely right. You know, and I even thought before the video when I was trying to, plan everything through, I need to prime this. And then I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, I got so excited, and then I forgot. It happens. I plan on painting this outside anyway, so that'll protect the outside. The inside's on the passenger compartment in here, so it's really not going to be getting wet. And then if it does, I got bigger issues because my car is flooded. So hopefully that'll be okay. But we're going to move forward, and I do want to mention why I didn't just box in under the 68 Charger, because that was discussed at some point also, and I can show you why. So the reason I didn't go that way is because of this hole right here, which is for one of the wipers. Well, it falls right where I would have had to put this drain in. I probably could have went around it and did all these funny angles and stuff like that, but I just decided to go the route I did instead, which is just fine. I'm happy with it. And this week's been kind of hard for me to get out into the garage and get things going. It's in life, you spend time being either the boot or the can. And I tell you, I have spent very little time being the boot lately. It's just, you get home from work and you're exhausted and you don't have the motivation to get things done, and it's hard to just get that incentive, but this project's not going to get done if I don't come out here and do it, so that's what I'm doing. I'm hoping once I get things going and I start putting pieces together, the motivation will hit me and it'll just zip right along. That's the plan anyways. But, as I discussed, we're going to start doing this section here, which I already started doing it, and during the week, I don't have as much time to do like all the video and editing and stuff like that, because by the time I get out of work and then I set things up, I have very limited time, so I got home, I started jamming away at it, doing what I could, but I'm going to get you caught up as to where it's at right now. So here it is. Here's where it's at as of right now. All I did is I went through, I kind of cleaned everything up, and I painted it before I forgot again. And then this lip here on the 68, I kind of peened it back, and then I put a clamp through the top, clamp through the bottom, kind of pulled it all together. I ran a bead along this, and then I put an angle bracket or an angle iron in here because I originally cut out this part of the bracket, so there was nothing here, and well, I want something that's going to tie all this together, because my plan is I'm going to build brackets that go from here, where this reinforcement bracket is on the 2007, there's one on the top, one on the bottom here. I am going to weld onto this, angle it back, tie it into the 68, and try and stiffen this area up, because the last thing I want is to be going down the road and every pothole I hit in these awesome Pennsylvania roads, the car's just buckling like this. Because granted, we have the frame that runs underneath, we don't really have like a whole lot up here, so I want to try and stiffen this area up as much as I can. Now, I got some of the 2x6s, I got pieces of 2x6 here, this is 2x4 over here. So between all this miscellaneous metal I have laying around, I am going to build some brackets to stick in here and weld this up. And once that's all done, I'm going to take a piece of sheet metal, cover all this up except for my drain hole, and make this all one piece, weld it all nice and solid, and then I'm going to have to do something with that too. But right now, this is what we're focused on. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I put a line on here with tape to give me some kind of a straight edge that I can follow. I'm going to cut this extra sheet metal off to expose these brackets that are in here, so whenever I go to weld my extensions, I'm actually welding to this and I'm not welding to this sheet metal. So I want to get good penetration between these old brackets and the new ones I'm going to make, just to make sure that the welds are solid, everything's good. And not only that, is when you're seaming something together, you don't want the seams all necessarily to be in the same place. So I'm going to seam it a little further out. Once I cut this back, the seam for this outside sheet metal is going to be a little further inset. You can see it's more so on the top just because I just did this by eyeball whenever I was cutting it apart. So we're going to go through, cut this off real quick, and then we're going to start making probably some templates to start making our brackets, because I'm going to have to do it in pieces. I can't make one bracket to stick in here. I tried the other day using the old 2007 that I actually cut out of here because it's the same thickness and stuff, but you can only get so far before you run into issues with it not wanting to drop into place, and I don't want to have huge gaps that I have to fill full of welds, so I'm just going to do it in pieces, and that'll also allow me to weld the outside and the inside on these side pieces, and then I'll just weld a cap right over the top of it. I did forget to point out that I did mark, if you can see it from that angle, but there is this spot here where this plug goes in to hold this drain. This is for the sunroofs, and I may add the sunroof to this car, so I don't want to delete it. But what I did is I put a mark about where it's going to be on this lip. I also did it on the back side just in case I'm welding, grinding, cleaning it up, and I wipe it off this front side. It's also on this back side, so you can kind of see some marks right about here, just so I have a reminder of where I'm supposed to put them. Well, so now you can see how these brackets are sticking out a little bit. Joke's on me, though. Apparently there was a big section cut out of this one right here. You can kind of see where this top is, and you can see where this bottom is right here. But that's okay, as long as I get a good weld on this bracket here. Once I put the top plate on, weld it all solid, that'll be okay. I'm not really worried about that one. This one here gives me a lot of surface to weld to, which is good because, well, if you're going to learn anything from me, don't get ahead of yourself. So up here, I don't have a whole lot of room to get in here and weld. I have a little bit more since I cut this off, but there's not very much. Same on this back side. So once I bring this bracket across, like, I'm not going to have a whole lot of room up here to weld to, but I will figure that out. It will work. So I got my first two templates cut out. This is the one that's going to go on the top. It's going to fit in here kind of like this, and then the bottom one is going to go similar, kind of like this down on the bottom. Now, I'm going on the outside of these channels because whenever I weld the steel on the underside, I'll be able to come up here and weld to this flange here, which is going to be a lot stiffer than if I put it on the inside, welding the underside to this piece of sheet metal here. So I think going on the outside of these is actually going to make it a lot stiffer. Now, I'm going to leave a little bit of extra material here for the final fitment of the cap that's going to go over the top of both of those, but I'm going to get this transferred onto some steel, get this cut out, and then we will continue. Got my two pieces of metal cut out for the first part of my bracket. This one's going to go at the top, kind of like so, and then this bottom one actually has a little bit of a bend in it. I don't know if you can see where that is or not, but this needs bent just a little bit because it sits in there and rocks. So I am going to precisely mark where I need to bend at. Right here. Close enough? Yeah. Anyway. And I am going to put this in my fancy bender here. and see if I can get that to kind of match that contour a little bit better. Like so. And see if this fits, or maybe I might have to go a little bit more. Hey, look at that. I'm actually pretty happy with that. I could go a little bit more, and I think I will. I got a little bit of a rock in there. I can live with that. It's tight at the top. That back, I actually think I'm hitting on the radius that's underneath here that forms that bracket. So if I trim that down, if I pull it out a little bit, you can actually see how well that fits. If I go in, then I'm off of it. So I might have to trim this back side just a little bit, clearance it out for that radius. So I got these brackets all trimmed where I want them, got them fit, got them primered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in place. I'm just going to put one tack weld in each spot just to hold everything in there where I want it. And that's going to allow me to do this cover piece before I weld all this solid, just in case I do have to shift it in or out or anything like that. I don't want to have it welded in solid and then realize I have to move them. So I'm going to tack them in there, and then we're going to start making the cover piece that goes over top. Alright, so I got my cover piece for my cap made. So it does kind of curve down here at the bottom. That's okay. I'm going to tack these edges, and then I'll tack this bottom corner and I'll tap it in until this corner here matches. Then I'll slowly massage this piece in so I can match it as close as I can to this profile. It's not going to be exact, and that's okay. This sheet metal that I'm going to put on here is not going to follow this either because it's got this bump here. This is just a filler panel. You're not going to see it, but I do want to make sure that it does look somewhat decent. I don't want it to look absolutely terrible, so I'm going to take my time, get this tacked in. I do have my corners beveled because this is a pretty thick piece of steel, and there's no point in using thick pieces of steel like this if you don't get full penetration. If you're just welding along the top, well, your weld's not going to be very strong. You're not really adding that much rigidity to whatever you're working on. So I always chamfer them, make sure I can get a good penetration on that chamfer. And I did chamfer these pieces also. This one you can't see as well, but it's there. I'll bet you guys thought I was going to forget to weld those all the way through before I put that cover plate on. I almost did. I had it in there, and I was starting to get a position, and I was like, oh man, I got to do all that welding. But it actually turned out fairly well. I want to say I almost redeemed myself with my welding. Let's not look at the underside ones, though. Especially this one, because it was tight back in there, and the angle was kind of awkward. But now, time to take the cover, stick it on there, and finish this one up. Now there is the bottom one all boxed in, ready to go. I am going to end up grinding these welds down on the face because the sheet metal is going to lay over top of this, and I don't want these welds holding the sheet metal up. This also gives me areas to like spot weld this piece of sheet metal to try and help hold it in place, make it a little bit more rigid. So now all I have to do is start doing this top one. This top mount, I think I'm going to do a little bit differently. I got my bottom piece. It's going to sit in here, right about here. And it's the same thing as the bottom. It's going to get welded underneath, welded inside before I put the cap on it. But what I think I'm going to do differently is, since I don't have any support up in here, I'm actually going to put a back plate on this also out of the same steel that I'm doing the top, the sides, the cover plate, all that. Just to help give a little bit more rigidity up in here where I have absolutely nothing. So that's going to tie this piece in with the back side of this door pillar here. And then same as the bottom, it's going to get boxed in. And I think putting the back on this is going to make it a lot stronger. Alright, I got the 3 pieces made to do this bracket. This is my bottom piece, this is my back piece, this is my top piece. I cut this line in it to help control my bend just a little bit so I don't completely mangle the whole piece. Before I put my cap on the front, I am going to go through and I'm going to weld that solid. That was there just so I can kind of help shape it to the car. But my plan is to take the top piece, weld it in such a way that this will be on the back, and then this will still be on the outside of this bracket here. This notch here is to help give room. You can't really see it, and I don't have enough hands. But to help give it enough room for that bracket to fit through there. That way there's overlap on this on the inside and then this on the outside. I'm going to tack it up first, see if that even works, because once it's in there, if I can't get it out, it's going to stay, and I'm going to have to weld it from the inside, and that's going to be it. So I got the back piece and the top piece tacked in place, and I'm actually pretty pleasantly surprised at how it fits. It allows me to slide it in so the back piece is on the inside, the top piece is on the outside, and that gap kind of allows me to like span that. You can kind of see it right there at the top where it kind of splits the two and allows it to go in between it. But that right there is pretty much where it would be home. Like, I'll be able to pinch this shut. But all in all, I'm happy with it. It comes in and out fairly easy. I didn't have to beat it in. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to get this piece welded up, get it in there, get it tacked and welded. And then I will get the bottom piece placed in there. Got the back and top piece, got it welded up. Got it kind of ground down to make sure the welds don't make it stand up. And I have to say, I am actually very pleased with how that turned out. You can kind of get a better view of how it's overlapping the top, the back piece is on the inside, and there's even, I don't know if the lighting's going to allow it. You can kind of see that hole up there. That was that notch where it allows this bracket to pass through. But I am actually very pleased with this. I'm going to go ahead, get this one welded in. And I'm probably just going to go ahead, jump forward. I'm going to get this bottom one welded on because I want to try and get this top piece done also. Alright, so we got the back, we got the top, we got the bottom, we got it fully welded in. Not too shabby. I'm actually pretty happy with these welds. There's a couple spots in the back where the angle wasn't ideal. It was kind of popping and sputtering a little bit. But they're still gonna hold. So I got my last piece that I have to cut out. I was busy looking at what I was doing and not looking through the camera. I got my last piece I have to cut out, We will get this thing fit into place tonight. We will get this all welded up. And then we're probably going to call it a night from there because it's getting a little late. But let's get this done. All right, last piece to put in on this top section. I just have it sitting in there just for mocking it up, just to make sure it's going to fit the way it's supposed to. I'm going to go ahead, get this welded in, and then we will stand back, take a look at it, and see how it's turning out. Well, I think that's going to do it for me for tonight. So it's been a productive day. I mean, I'm actually very happy with how this is turning out, and I am super critical of all the work that I do. Anybody that watches this channel knows that, but I am actually very happy with how this is turning out. I'm going to give this some time to cool down. I'm going to hang out in the garage just because I did a lot of welding. And if I ever want to go to sleep tonight, I need to make sure there's nothing hot that's going to smolder or anything like that. So I'm going to hang out, let this cool down, call it a night, come out here tomorrow, start cleaning this all up, and get ready to start putting that piece of sheet metal that's going to cover all this and tie this panel to this panel and make it all look like one piece. Well, good morning, good morning. Time to wake up and smell that grinding dust. Got the torpedo heater going for a little while because it still gets chilly at night, so it's a little chilly in here. But I'm going to leave that running. I'm going to start grinding. I was looking at this morning, and I wish I would have done one thing just a little bit differently, and I'm going to show you what that is. So we got our first weld out here, which is probably like, I don't know, ½ inch away from this lip or so. And then you got this one, which is tucked up pretty close to this lip on this sheet metal. I kind of wish I would have trimmed this back so my bend on this sheet metal would have been in the same place. Not really that big of a deal, because if you look at it, the 68 kind of tapers away anyways. So that's really not a big deal, just a minor thing to note. But I'm going to go through, get all this ground down, get these welds cleaned up, and then we're going to start moving on. Alright, so here we have our rough template of what I want to make for putting in here. I'm going to slip it in behind this piece of sheet metal on the 2007. And it's close. Like I'm going to leave extra whenever I do the actual sheet metal and trim it back to fit. Alright, so I got my rough piece of sheet metal cut out. I don't know if you can kind of see the lines on it. I don't know if this thing's going to focus or not. But either way, I have my line here from my template. I left it a little bit bigger so I can kind of grind it down and make it fit a little bit better. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time getting this thing fitted in place. And then we'll start installing this thing. So this metal is actually a little bit thicker than what I thought it was going to be, and it doesn't want to bend on its own very easy. Like I was kind of anticipating just being able to fold this over, but that's not going so well. So I'm going to have to put a pre-bend in it to try and get this lip knocked down to where I want it. So I'm just going to roughly mark the top where the bend is, and then the bottom. The bottom, I remember, was actually really close to this sheet metal, so probably right about there. Okay, probably really didn't need 14 gauge. give that a shot. Alright, so I got the piece bent. I primed the backside before I forget to do that. I also put marks where I put these brackets in because I do want to drill a couple holes in this just to spot weld it to these brackets just to help hold it in place. So I'm going to go ahead, get this thing in there. Hopefully it fits and hopefully I can get it back out. Yeah, I like it. So I'm going to throw a couple marks on here. I just do 1, 2, 3, and these ones up here I'm going to use whenever I put this top piece on. I'm going to have it overlap on the outside of this one, overlap on the outside of this one, probably about down to the bottom of these X's that I just put on. And then I'll drill holes in that, and then when I set it over top, I'm going to spot weld all three pieces together. This top piece, this middle piece, and that bracket I put in earlier. That way everything's kind of held into place. Alright, so I got all the holes drilled for my spot holes that I want to put in. I started doing this one. I at least got it started. It's kind of hard to hold this piece and get in there and do that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick this through what I have started, and then once it's on the car and I don't have to worry about it spinning around and moving on me, I'm just going to chip away at it, and then I'll work on getting that grommet fit back into place. I did end up, so here's the original mark that it was. I ended up moving it because this mark was right on this bend that I put in this piece of steel. So I moved it a little bit just to get it off of this bend, just to make sure it seals whenever you push it in. It snaps right into place. Make sure your fingers aren't in there. Well, time to do some welding. Alright, so we have this outer piece fully welded on, all the plug welds, I got those in, fully welded up the front and the back, all the way around. This, I don't think I could have or would have done anything different than what I did now. 14 gauge steel, a little hard to bend, but I'm okay with that because it's going to add rigidity. I don't want to have a flimsy piece of sheet metal in there trying to hold everything together. So now what I have to do is start building this top piece that goes around this drain for the cowl. Alright, so I got the template made out for this top piece. I'm going to have to play with this a little bit because the paper goes on just fine, but once it's steel I'm going to have to maybe make that hole a little bit bigger, but this is basically how it's going to fit. The top is going to come over to this cowl mount that I made is going to get welded solid along that. It'll be flush with it because the cowl's going to sit on top, cover the rest of it, so I don't want this on top of the cowl to raise it up. So it'll be flush with the top, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to weld all the way around it, but I'm going to get this template, I'm going to get it onto some steel, start playing with the size, playing with the bend, see if I can get it to fit the way I want it to fit. So here's the template that I started with, got it as close as I could. And then I transferred it. I left a little extra material so I can kind of grind it down, grind it to fit. I had to play with this bend line a little bit. You can kind of see the bend on top. It's further up than where the bend actually is. So I had to move that bend. Got the spot hole drills in it, and it fits fairly well. Once it's in there, everything's pulled up tight. This top piece, that actually closes up once I get it in. But I'm going to go through, I'm going to clamp this piece in, I'm going to get it all welded up, and then I'm going to finish the top piece of this drain, and then just finish this whole section up. Alright, top piece all welded in. I got all the joints done down the side. I got the spot weld, I got those all filled in. And I did make the last section of my drain. So this is going to come in here and just kind of snap into place like that. Now you'll notice it's shorter than the other ones. I left these other ones longer on purpose. I'll show you what I'm going to do with those later. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weld this in, and then we're going to finish taking care of all of these. Alright, last part of the drain welded in. And I don't know if you're going to be able to get a good view. I can show you around the best I can. But it's all welded on the back side. I did not weld this corner here or this back one, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through and cut these down. I don't know exactly how long yet, but I'm going to roll those over. I'm going to roll these over onto this plate here and then weld all the way around it. So this isn't going to be sticking out. I just didn't know exactly how long I wanted these, so I made sure I left extra. But I'm going to go through, cut these down, and then we will pick up after that. Alright, so I got these trimmed down. They're about, I don't know, 1/4 inch or so. No particular reason for that length other than that's just about where I stopped at. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my hammer and I'm just going to roll these lips over. I should mention, the ones where I did weld, I took the cut off and I cut the weld so I'm not ripping the material. That looks pretty good to me. So now what I'm going to do is just go through and weld all the way around this just to seal it all the way up. Alright, I'm going to spend a couple minutes, go through, clean all this up. I still have to do this drain. I got to do that real quick too. But it has been a long, exhausting day. But I'm happy with everything that's done. So let me go through, finish this up. Then we'll clean it up. We'll primer it, and then I'll get you in here, and we'll kind of go over everything one last time. Now that this side here is done. Now, I know there's somebody out there that calls this thing the old cheek poker. Yeah. They are not wrong. Very, very important. Wear safety glasses when you're using these, especially these wire wheel ones, because those things come flying off all the time. I've had them stick me in the face, the hand, everything. But I'm going to turn this camera around, get you close enough, or maybe you can smell the grinding dust, because it's thick in here. Like, it's thick. Alright, final close-up while everything's kind of cleaned up. So you can really see how that drain's going to work now. It's just going to come running down out of here. I do still have to finish this up. I got it. I think I have it to fit. I'm going to go through and prime all of this, and then I will put that grommet back on. I'm really not worried about cleaning any of these up because, you know, I'm actually pretty happy with the way everything turned out. So you know what? I'm just going to leave my work there for everybody to see. Alright, last view of it. All painted up, got the grommet back in. I'm actually very happy with how that turned out. But I gotta tell you, that's a lot of work. It really is. And I'm only half done. I still got the passenger side to do. But that's going to do it for this video. I'm trying to keep these videos somewhat short, but yet in depth on what I'm doing. So I don't want to make the videos too long and then or skip over anything. So if you want to follow this build, like, subscribe, notifications, comment, share. All those things are right at your fingertips, and I'm actually going to try and make it a little bit easier. I think I'm going to try and put the subscribe button. Hopefully it's going to show up somewhere on this screen. I don't know. Until next time.